Welcome to HortTube, where we talk all things gardening. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is a Goldmop Cypress. This is Goldmop Cypress, a slow-growing, evergreen conifer with a weeping habit and this beautiful gold foliage. Height is an interesting topic with a Goldmop Cypress because every tag you're ever going to see is going to say 3 to 4 feet tall, 3 to 4 feet wide. But actually these things just kind of never stop growing. They don't grow very quickly, but they can get 6 feet tall. I had one next to my deck over about a 15-year period of time. It got over 6 feet tall very, very slowly. It added very little a year. So when you see a tag that says 3 to 4 feet on these, what they're really saying is maintainable at 3 to 4 feet and slow growing. Goldmop is an extremely cold hardy conifer, a needled plant, non-leafy plant that can grow in zones 4 to 8. So 4 is, nighttime. I think their average low temperature is like -30 or something in zone 4. So we're talking about a very, very cold hardy plant. As you come further and further south, probably into zone 8, this plant probably would have some problems with, if you're in an area to where you get a week or two every summer that's 100 degrees, this may not be a good choice for you. Goldmop is a slow growing, low maintenance conifer. We might be able to get 6 inches of growth out of it a year, but probably a little less than that. And a lot of the growth is weeping down, so it doesn't add any height to it during the season. Goldmop would prefer at least half of the midday sun. So that would be part sun or even full sun to keep this yellow color. I've actually seen these growing in quite a bit of shade, and they perform better than most conifers, but they'll lose almost all of this color. Goldmop cypress have many, many uses. This plant could be used as a container plant because it's so cold hardy. The roots can freeze solid on this plant for short periods of time and still be fine as a container plant. It can go in the corner of your house and be allowed to get 5 or 6 feet over a long period of time. It would take a long, long time from something this height. Or as just right on a foundation, if you have 3-foot windows, these could easily be maintained in that 3-foot range for, probably as long as you're going to live in your house. Or it could be used in a mass planting with other maybe purple foliaged plants. These look really, really great up against other darker foliaged plants planted in mass. Not a lot of special planting considerations for Goldmop cypress. You'd want to dig the hole, the depth of this pot, and then put some of that loose soil back in the bottom so that you elevate these a little bit, and then lightly mulch. Don't cover anything that's not covered. You'll hear me say that on every one of these videos. If you have heavy clay soils, you're probably going to want to mix some pine bark soil conditioner in 50-50 with the clay. If you have sandier soils, you have to be careful with sandier soils because this is not the most drought tolerant plant. This is actually more drought tolerant than most conifers, but I'd be a little nervous if it was a soil that dried out very, very quickly all the time. In that case, you would definitely want to mix in some peat moss or some compost or some cow manure 50-50 with whatever comes out of the hole. In terms of watering Goldmop cypress, the first year it's in, you're going to want to water it anytime it's abnormally dry. Just drag a hose over to it and turn it on slowly and just kind of saturate the area around it. Once it's established, I don't ever remember dragging a water hose back to mine. I eventually had to take mine out because it got bigger than the space I needed it, but it was probably 15 years in that space and never watered it after that first season that it was planted. But if you did have a 2-month period where we weren't getting a lot of rain and it was very, very hot, you might want to pull a water hose over to them. The nice thing about these, some conifers, if you let them become too dry, they thin out very badly in the bottom. If that happens on these can be top pruned and respond very, very favorably to regrowing in the bottom of the plant, where some other conifers just don't do that very well. And in terms of pruning these just in general, this shape, these are very slow growing, and in order to keep this shape, I will prune them more than is necessary. If I'm trying to get them 6 inches lower, I'll actually cut them 12 inches lower. That way they have some time to come back out and have this stringy look that they're supposed to have. If we just constantly take that little bit off the top, they end up very tight and round and never really have this weeping look that is really kind of what they're grown for. A light fertilization on Goldmop cypress in the early spring These are acid-loving plants, so an azalea camellia rhododendron fertilizer that's slow release, or holly tone would work, or flower tone is another organic that you could use. Just a light fertilization in the spring. I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to push this plant a whole lot, but we do want to keep this new growth throughout the season, and that can be done with a light fertilizer. That new growth is where all the best color is. In terms of insect or disease problems on Goldmop cypress, there really aren't any that we see in the nursery. Occasionally these might be susceptible to spider mites if they were under stress, but generally speaking, if they're in any open space, I don't think you're going to have many problems with these, and the deer seem to leave them alone. I wouldn't call them deer proof, but certainly deer resistant. So what are you waiting for? Even you can grow the low maintenance gold weeping conifer, Goldmop cypress. Thank you for watching, and if this video was helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. We have a foggy.